Hera o ngā roto Rotorua. Welcome to this meeting of the Rotorua Lakes Council. We are in our LTP hearings on the 27th of May. We thank all of our submitters for coming in and presenting in person, and we remind everyone that this meeting is being live streamed, so please also have your phones on silent or turned off. Submitters will have 5 minutes for their presentation, and there is a timer near me. When you hear the ding of that bell, or I'll politely remind you after 5 minutes, and that will conclude your submission. Before we get started, I'll just open us up with a brief karakia. Tūtaua mai I runga, tūtaua mai I raro, tūtaua mai I roto, tūtaua mai I waho, kia tau ai te mauri tū, te mauri ora ki te katoa, haumi e, hui e, tai kia. And in English, I summon from above, I summon from below, I summon from within, I summon the surrounding environment, the universal vitality and energy to infuse and enrich all present, enriched, unified and blessed. Our first submitters today are joining us by Zoom. This is Peter Hill and Cherry Noel Nielsen. Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Excellent, we can hear you as well. So we'll hand over to you for 5 minutes and I'll let you know when that is up. Thank you for making your submission by Zoom.
Right. Thank you for us allowing us to join. I'm basically Peter Hill speaking on behalf of our partner Cherry Nelson, who is actually one of the owners of the batch that we enjoy our holidays at Lake Rotorua. And I'll do most of the speaking. Cherry had another speaking point after my speech, or my submission, but I think probably we were basically going to cover it now. And so, just as a little bit of background, Cherry and her sisters took over the batch as on a married lease. Rotorua 1 is the group that we're leasing from, and about 46 years ago. And it's been in the family with Cherry's father for 72 years, so a long time of holidaying there. And so, in terms of the sewage issue, we've obviously been around when there are contractors, etc. there, and it's so basically, first of all, start of course with the communications from the Rotorua Lakes District in regards to the proposal, and that was way back about 2010, so 14 years ago, and it went all the way through. An estimated price was about $7,000 once a particular option was selected, and which is the tank system with the low pressure pump. And then it was 2019, so 9 years after that, when the actual tank was installed at Cherry's batch. And the experience over the 3 or 4 years prior to 2019 was concerning in the sense that there were various installers and agents and contractors coming on site and talking about discussing obviously where to put the tank and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, it was very confusing because those contractors seemed to change. When you talk to one particular firm or a group of people, then someone else would come in and next time you're down at the batch and there would be someone different. So I think there were a lot of different companies plugging in and plugging out or dropping out of the project. So anyway, the tank was installed in 2019, and the batch, obviously the plumbing of the batch connected up, and the understanding at that point was prices escalated from $7,000 as a capital outlay for each batch owner to $14,100. And so, that capital outlay is obviously a concern to batch owners who are only tenants on the property, and then now we're hearing it's $45,000. So talk about mental and financial anguish in regards to this merry-go-round in escalating costs, let alone all the issues in terms of all the people and lack of communication from both the council and the installers. And more recently, we've heard that the low pressure pump system, which was supposed to send solids, emulsified down the line 4.1 kilometres away, 14.1 kilometres away to the collection point, were basically not going to happen, and that the tanks were actually going to retain the solids, and they had to be pumped out, or say yearly or whenever they get too full. So, well, you know, the original understanding from 2010 to now has changed quite substantially, and a lot of surprises along the way. And all that has created mental and financial anguish in regard, and also downgraded the reputation of the area in regards to attractiveness to holiday makers or people to buy and sell their leases and so on. So it has ramifications and from that perspective as well. So basically, I'll just quickly check. So we're actually one of the signees onto the Rotorua Community Association submission, and obviously that submission contains a background of not only our perspective but many others. Cherry's batch is actually probably one of the last on the line. So as you go from Lake Rotorua from the address and head away from the lake, we're probably the first to feed in, and there's 6 batches up on the property. And we're seeing some of those batches have to be redone, where the tanks have floated, and so they had to be taken out and reset. And all that comes with a big cost too. So heaven knows what's caused this huge cost blowout, but it's just not acceptable. And we have to be questioning as to the council's legal right to be able to just allow a project like this to be delivered in a very unsatisfactory way with lack of communication and also, you know, the actual the financial impact of that in regards to expected capital outlay.
Peter,
not only that, but ongoing maintenance as well.
Yeah, Peter and Cherry, I apologise. It is the 5 minutes up. Was there a final point that you wish to make?
No, so I think pretty much I've raised our concerns, and it's very much reflects on what the Rotorua Community Association has submitted. So thank you for your time, and we appreciate the opportunity to express our concerns.
Thank you very much for joining us again. We appreciate you sharing your personal experiences with us as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elected members.
Does Cherry get a chance to talk now, or is?
Oh, apologies. There was just some confusion that you were presenting together, but yes, you are welcome to make your presentation now, Cherry. Elected members, this is number 259 in your submission papers. Cherry, we'll reset the 5 minutes for you now. Over to you.
Okay, hi. Yeah, I don't want to speak particularly. I would prefer a partner to talk on my behalf. He's brought up all the concerns. It's just an absolute merry-go-round for us people. I don't know how they expect people to come up with this amount of money. It's just unheard of, really. Peter, is there anything you want to cap on?
Yeah, I guess I got a question to the council really in terms of installations for infrastructure at the end of the day. You know, does the council have a right to just run whatever project it likes, budget at a certain amount, and then blow that out by about 600%? Is that something the council, in terms of the Fair Trading Act, can do?
Apologies, we don't do questions. We are in hearings, so we will take that as a feedback point from you.
Okay, fair enough. Well, that's certainly pretty substantial one in terms of the actual legality around the whole thing. and part of that, of course, is, you know, we don't even know, depending on what final amount's settled on, in terms of the charge, the capital outlay charge, to each of the property, not necessarily owners, but lessees, as to how that would be levied, whether that's one payment or whether it's spread out through the rate, yearly rate instalments or whatever. So that's another question I have for you to take forward. All right, thank you very much. I think we've had our piece. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you both. Our next submitter who will come and present is Richard Howard Stevens. And this is number 246 submission, elected members.
Good afternoon, Mayor Tatzel, councillors and others. It's a great pleasure to be here. It's the first time for me, so I'm very nervous. I see some familiar faces here, probably people I voted for. Hopefully, I'll be able to vote for you again. My submission is in respect of the East Rotorua sewerage scheme. I've been privileged to enjoy a family holiday home in Hauparu Bay, Lake Rotorua, for 65 years. And my grandchildren are now the fourth generation enjoying the property. Our septic tank gave good service for many years, but eventually it gave up, and we installed a 25,000 litre black and grey water tank, which was which, together with associated engineering works to keep the property compliant, cost me $30,224 over the 4 years prior to the new scheme being instigated. So I wasn't very happy about that, but that's what we did to comply prior to the new scheme. We were delighted to embrace the new scheme when it finally reached us. The Fulton Hogan team and subcontractors were courteous, competent, and the biolytics system has been trouble-free since. We considered that the expected cost of around $14,000 to $15,000, as stated in the previous 10-year plan, even with a reasonable increase, would be acceptable to us. The GM infrastructure, as no doubt you know, even gave an assurance at the public meeting at Rotorua on 1 December 2018 that good project management and good collaboration by all parties can fit the remainder of the scheme inside or very close to the scheme estimate. We are acutely aware and very conscious that the affected communities are concerned about the affordability of the system. Cost affordability is embedded in all planning considerations. It does actually suggest that the cost affordability wasn't quite embedded enough. I was somewhat disappointed to attend the Rotorua public consultation meeting on 15 April this year to be informed of the budget blowout. This, of course, as we know, equates to a contribution to better lake water quality to $45,000 each for the 770 households involved. Rotorua is a gem. We all know that. I see that the NIWA Fish and Game Survey for 2021-22 places Lake Rotorua as the most popular fishing lake in the country, followed by Lakes Benmore and Whakatipu. I also saw a post-Christmas survey result, just this last Christmas. I have no backing for it, but it claimed that over the prime summertime holiday period, up to 85% of daily lake traffic came from elsewhere, which meant people who were not lake dwellers, but people who were coming in, launching boats at boat ramps and using the lake. The lake is highly regarded nationally and internationally now, and serves for the benefit of the whole of the Rotorua economy, not just the eastern shore of the lake. And I implore and suggest that the Council give consideration to recovering the blowout with a marginal rating increase from all the Rotorua households. Strongly recommend that the Council consider this. Rotorua as a whole benefits from better quality water in its lakes, not just the households at Rotoiti and Rotomā. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard, for taking the time to make that submission in person. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
I'd now like to ask Maru Hairepo Poihepi Tapsell to make his submission. Kia ora, Maru.
Kia ora no tātou. Ko ai tēnei te tangata, nā ko te waka o te arawa i oia mai nei, i te kawa ki te kōrero i nāna nei. No reira hoia mai, uri no ki tō tātou, pare tua ki nei tēnā rā tātou katoa. Wai ho ngā mata ki a rātou, haere rātou ki te rā wāhi tuturu o te tangata, me hoki kia tātou, e mata ki taki mai, tēnā rā koutou. I wanted to be short on that. Tōku ingoa ko Maru Hairepo Poihepi Tapsell, taku waiwai ko Ngāti Pikiao, taku hene ngaro ko Ngāti Whakaue, taku manawa ko Waitaha, the most oppressed iwi in Tarawa, Waitaha, ana kia ora no tātou. Anyway, the submission that I got in front of me came from a hui we had, Ngāti Pikiao hui. And I only wanted a one-pager, but obviously there's 13 pages. And 13 pages of it, and I don't want to go through the 13 pages. I can't speak on Morse code, so I'll just highlight a few points. And just briefly give you a bit of a background on myself in terms of dealing with local governments. I was on the Regional Transport Board, I was on Smart Growth, I've gone to the Environmental Court on a number of cases, particularly the water for Tauranga City Council, Western Bay, and the World Health Authority, that's the WHO, connected to the international. And my background is I shore for many years. I went to 17 Melbourne Cups, so I spent about nearly 30 years in Australia, 17 of them at the Melbourne Cup. And I shore between here and New Zealand, so I'm very well aware of the landscape. I've shorn in all places, right up to Mesopotamia, down in the South Island, right up north and everywhere. And I've seen the interest I have in terms of the environment. And just on the environment, the first thing we need to be talking about is global warming. We should have been talking about that last week, not the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. We're finding solutions if there was a hazard like what happened in Gisborne. You actually want to know how did it happen, why did it happen, and those particular issues. Like the trees that come down. If we were under the old state forest system, you wouldn't have had that impact like they had down in Gisborne. They would have been planted in sections, and the forest would have been cut down in sections. And so therefore, you wouldn't have the impact that it had in Gisborne. Having said that, just getting on the big picture, Rotorua is important. When tourism first started through penny diving. And penny diving, and there was a disaster at Tarawera that kicked it all off. And that's whakarewarewa came up. You didn't need big scientific property developing people to plan. It happened naturally. Planning naturally, and that's something that Rotorua District Council needs to come to terms with. If I can just put a touch on it, if we look at Tauranga, the port of Tauranga, as we imagine that Tauranga was Rome, all roads lead to Rome. Those roads would be the Eastern Arterial. And the Eastern Arterial leads to the national economy. The national economy are the logs that come out of Central North Island, tourism, and those matters. There are hubs on the way to the national economy. So Rotorua holds a key part to the national economy. So if there's any development that needs to take place or cost for infrastructure development, then that needs to be done collaboratively with the Department of Conservation. You take into account your national policy, regional policy statement, and they all come together to pay the bills. I think my time's up, eh? Yep, that's just read the document, get brain damage, and kill it.
Thank you very much. Ka mihi nui ki a koe, Maru. I'd now like to invite Sue Camel to make her submission. And this is number 253 on your submissions.
Your Worship, Councillors, tēnā koutou. Thank you for the chance to come and talk to you about my submission, which was on the Rotorua Rotoiti sewage scheme. My name's Sue Kamel and I'm living at Rotorua in a property that we've held for about 50 years now. I also represented the Rotorua community on the steering committee that was set up after the first resource consent. I would like to start, if I may, just acknowledging those submitters who have stood to come and talk to you about their views, their experiences, and possibly to offer some solutions about how we go forward. Rotorua residents, their friends and their families have very strong and sometimes intergenerational connections to the lake. Many are superannuitants and thought that they would be spending the rest of their days there. They're all pretty environmentally aware and do not want to see the quality of the lake water destroyed. When we started this journey, affordability was the cornerstone of the scheme. So it came as a bit of a shock, and nobody really envisaged the fact that we'd have a $45,000 bill now, or an $88,000 debt to the council. With no way to pay, can't sell our houses, and so the prospect of waiting until either the council or number one trust comes and takes our homes to pay the bills is actually causing a lot of concern in our community. As I think you've seen, a few people are pretty upset about what's going on. So the emotional toll of those people to come here to this forum and speak to you takes a lot of courage, actually. I think it did, and I think you saw that. We excused you when you came to us and said, oops, we forgot the GST. Sorry, it'll be another 15%. A mistake, you said. We supported you when you came to us and said, look, could you please go and take on step, because otherwise we're going to lose a second consent. That was another 15% or more increase in it. Cultural demands, you said. We believed you when you said that you would be able to deliver the project within the $14,000 financial envelope. Don't worry, you said. If the worst comes to the worst, we'll come and talk to you before we spend any more money. Well, since then, we've all witnessed the mismanagement, the incompetencies, and how the story changes to cover up these ineptitudes. And I think you've heard a lot about that already in the last few days, so I won't go over that. And I think that actually it's not over yet. When you look at some of the figures that we've been put out, there's a possibility that could be another 10 million to come to finish the project. And are we going to be billed for that? Pretty much that, if it did come to another 10 million, that would take the price up considerably for us. It's about another, I haven't done the numbers, but I'm sure you know. So having been a member of the steering committee for a couple of years, I did have some sympathy for the staff when they were trying to negotiate the complexities of the scheme. And I had some sympathy for you because you've got to clean up now the mess that's been left behind. That wasn't until, of course, this LTP came along, because actually, have you wondered why there's been so many no-shows? Well, I can tell you, because most people haven't been contacted, and they're not hearsay, they're people that we know personally. And when I say, why don't you take the initiative and ring up yourself, they say, well, what's the point? What is the point? If they can't be bothered to ring me, why should I? But the worst was when I received a response from a questionnaire under the Local Government Information Act. I think, to politely put it, that there are severe inconsistencies in there would be too good. A lot of the questions just are not answered properly. So, again, a narrative that's been manipulated to tell a favourable story. So it seems nothing has changed. The processes and the culture stays the same. I know you rely on your staff to give you information, but the responsibility is yours. That's called governance. Unfortunately, the council has lost all credibility within our community, and these actions make a farce out of your statement to deliver essential services to all your communities and to get Rotorua through these tough times. The trust deficit between council and iwi that were created after the first resource consent may be bridged, but you've now created a huge chasm with your ratepayer community. So where to from here? Well, I believe that's really to do with your moral compass and your willingness to actually put this aside from this LTB to be able to sit down and talk to us about some real solutions that are going to benefit everyone. I would strongly urge you to take that course of action, because you haven't left us much room other than to take a course of action which is going to be detrimental to the already fragile reputation of Rotorua. And also, it will cause further emotional harm to your constituents. So thank you again for your time. Ngā mihi nui.
Ngā mihi nui kia koe hoki. Thank you very much, Sue. I'd now like to invite Ben Sherwood to make their presentation. This is number 269, elected members. Welcome, Ben.
Afternoon, councillors. Mayor Tapsell. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak to my submission today, and I would like to outline the impact RLC's management of the Rotorua sewage scheme has put on our community. Sorry, but I'm going to go, you've heard this a million times over the last few days, but a little bit of the history of the project. It's already been tabled many times, but to be brief, the scheme was forced onto our community with threats of our homes being red stickered if we did not comply. Most did comply for the general good of the lake's quality, and it was estimated the cost at the time would be $14,100, including GST, per household. This was in 2017. Jump forward 2 years and the Rotorua system was cobbled together and connected to the new treatment plant at Rotorua. Then in July 2021, an update letter was sent to some of the ratepayers with cost escalation at $16,241 exclusive of GST. This was the last official update from Council. So here we are, May 2024, and the project is still not complete, with a project completion now 5 years overdue. We feel the communication from Council's infrastructure team has been appalling, and the only reason the project blowout has come to light is due to the current LTP process, not by direct communication with affected residents. The current LTP notes the costs have ballooned to $45,000 per household, though I have reminded many of my neighbours at Rotorua that this is the LTP, this is not an invoice, and costs still could climb with some 80 properties remaining to be connected at East Rotorua. Lake Rotorua has an average income of $28,000 per annum. I note that the minimum wage is currently $48,000. This is for context of the community. Our community is varied, though predominantly superannuitants with many on leasehold properties. The proposed costs are simply unaffordable for a typical family, but impossible for someone on a fixed income with no option to secure alternative funding, as a bank cannot legally put someone into hardship and therefore will not loan them the money as an alternative. People will walk off their properties, default on their rates bill, and God forbid the mental health toll this may put on our more vulnerable residents. Moving forward, the money is spent, we have to move forward. I feel Council needs to look at increasing their contribution to the scheme as noted in the LTP, though this figure needs to reflect Council's commitment to both the wider Lakes area and the people of Rotorua and East Rotorua. You have let us down. The proposed increase of $2,700 per household falls well short. A figure of $4,000 would make a tangible difference to the total subsidies. Council should also continue to lobby government to reinstate the lost $10 million loan put forward originally by the Ministry for the Environment. This is now critical, though we suspect government is not keen to bail out RLC due to the continued poor management of the project. Once the subsidies are confirmed, the quoted cost to residents should then be honoured at circa $16,000 per household, and the cost overrun and non-budgeted management costs be covered across the entire region over a period of around 10 years. In my role, I'm a consultant project manager in construction. I understand fully construction, project management and project costs and project budgeting. An infrastructure project of this size should have been managed this way from day one. Residents paying for the cost to connect to their properties and the region paying the cost for the treatment plant and the pipeline, the infrastructure cost. This is still achievable if Council adopts a policy akin to most of the New Zealand households currently, and the focus on akin to most New Zealand households currently, and focuses on essential spending, infrastructure, crime, emergency housing, roading repairs, and to further nice-to-have projects until the council balance sheet is under control. In short, we, the residents of Rotorua East Rotorua, should not be burdened with this cost. It's time to do the right thing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ben. We now welcome John Sanderson. Hi. This is submission number 69, elected members.
Kia ora koutou, Mayor Tapsell and the council, thanks for hearing my submission today. I'm here to talk about the proposed short-term accommodation proposal that's in the long-term plan, or in the draft long-term plan at the moment. I can't help but think that it's been ill-considered and rushed through. Some background, I got notice via my lawyer a couple of days before the meeting that was held to outline what was the proposal was, just literally a couple of days before the meeting. I didn't myself get my letter until after the meeting, and I did attend the meeting, and there was a general feeling of lack of information. And didn't feel like it had been worked out yet. I looked at the rating database and I couldn't actually see what my rates were going to be. And I've since lodged a request to have my property removed from the register because I do in fact live in the property. It's a 2-bedroom unit that me and my family live in full time. So I don't know how my property came to be on the short-term rating database, and my request to have it removed has been met by silence. So despite ringing the council multiple times to try and get an update, I've got a request number in there since the day or two after that meeting, and I still haven't heard. And so I don't know what my rates are. So it's very hard to submit on a proposal when you actually don't know what your rates are going to be. So, despite the fact that I'm confident that eventually my property will be removed from the short-term rating database, I still felt compelled to submit on the short-term proposal because it just seemed so unjustly unfair. The sort of rates proposed for most properties are well over 100% and some up to sort of 270% increase in rates. Well, no one can plan for that. No one can afford that abrupt change in rates without some forewarning. So I take it you've probably all read my submission. I don't need to talk to that in detail. But I did note the Queenstown process for rating, and I think they're probably the first council in New Zealand to rate for homestay type and private visitor accommodation. And they rate for up to 90 days at no increase in rates, and then 90 to 180 days at 25 to 35% increase in rates. And I think that's fair and reasonable. I think if you look at most homestay / short-term accommodations, it'd be best viewed as supplemental income rather than a full business. Most people still have a day job who have a Airbnb or that sort of thing, and that really a differential in that sort of proportion is fair and reasonable. And I know that you guys, you rate retrospectively, so the fact that the notice has only just come out, but it's going to be rated on last year's use and then implemented July 1st of this year gives no people time to change their use or plans if it's either uneconomic or doesn't make sense for them to carry on using the property in that way. So I basically am submitting that take a serious look at what Queenstown's doing. They rate on occupancy, not on advertised days, and that means that's much fairer as well, because you can advertise a lot and not get that many bookings, depending on the types of property, especially for some rural properties, or you could be only advertising in short blocks like the school holidays and actually be full during those times. So, and then probably the other thing is, if you do implement it to that sort of degree of these large increases, then you need to give people some notice. Either bring it on incrementally over a stage of a number of years, and to work up to that, or you just need to not do it till 1st of July 2025, so that people can know what's coming and change their use if they need to. And yeah, I would like a response on my request to have a resolution on my short-term accommodation use, because I've got a request in there not to be taken off the register. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, John. Elected members, we will take a short, our next submitter, who is here but isn't ready to submit until the 4:25, so we'll just take a very short break now. We'll take a short break now. Perhaps just 5. 10-minute break now until 4:25. LTP hearings. I'd like to give a warm welcome to Cody Gledhill, who will also be doing a submission for himself and on behalf of his wife, Katie. So you will have 10 minutes on the clock if you need it. We'll flip it around, and you'll see it just on the iPad. Okay, when you're ready.
Okay, all right. Hello everyone, I'm Cody. Straight off, must apologise. I understand it's probably been a long few days and the same things coming out of the woods that you guys are dealing with, and most of it's based on the previous council. Can I say I actually voted for most of you fellas here, so that's pretty choice that you guys are in. Yeah, and other things like in 2021, the long-term plan, the rates actually stated it was going to be 4.5% targeted for this one. Now it's looking at 7+% and climbing. And 2021, the LTP plan actually had the debt for 2031 proposed was 450 mil. Now it's sitting at 550 mil and climbing. There's still another 10 hanging around somewhere. So that's all based on previous council. So I understand you guys are dealing with it. So good luck, team. Bit of a quick background, my name's Cody, I'm a builder, young family, live out at Lake Rotorua, volunteer firefighter, give everything I can to the community, grew up there, went to primary school, disappeared, travelled the world, figured out what was going on and realised it's a pretty cool spot, I love that place and I want my kids to grow up the way I grew up. So back we went, 2012, bought a little old home, it was pretty bad, up Oxford Road, started refurbing it and then thought, oh, what are we doing? We actually need to rebuild. So joined the ratepayers with Sue and Ben and a few other people that are popping up out of the woods and decided what are we going to do when it comes to the septic side of it. So done some digging around, council turned around and said, Cody, you can put a house there, but you need to do 1 of 3 offsets that is available via the regional Bay of Plenty. And once you've got it all done and finished and looking pretty, in about 6 months, we're going to make you rip it out and you're going to join it through articulation. And I was like, that's a bit unfair. So done some digging around, had a friend of mine at Drain Layer and he's like, Cody, I'll come give you a hand. We can do it for $15,000 finished and there's no ongoing costs. And I was like, cool, but I don't really want to have to sign up. So done some digging around. And in 2017 in October, Stavros sent me a letter saying, hi Cody, good luck, good things. You're gonna, if you can have a step tank for $14,100 that had gone up from 12, I'd watched it through the ratepayers climb. And I said, cool, if I sign up to this, because I don't really want to, I don't like the idea of a treatment plant being on, you know, not on private land and things like that. What's the go? It's not even going. How am I going to hook up? And he goes, a council had a meeting. They said, you can hook up via your old septic tank. We'll let it flow. You can move in and then you hook up from there on out. So I got my big flag out and I said, come on team, we should all sign up. Let's make this lake a better place for $14,100. I've done the sums, 20K without me digging my own hole. I can get offsets for everyone, but for 14 grand, we can join on the bandwagon. People started joining, cool bananas. And then being the builder out there, the project started. And they said, Cody, you're going to use yours as the guinea pig. You're number one. They came out, dug a big hole, put the tank in the ground and said, right, this is going to happen. And I was standing with Roger, the guy, the project manager at the time, and I said, that's not going to flow. And he goes, no, the manufacturer spec says it's got to be here, the tank lid's got to be this much above the ground, 50 millimetres. And I said, it's not. I said, is that your inlet on the tank? And he goes, yeah. And I said, I'm probably, at a guess here, about 178 millimetres lower than what you are now. And that's just a guess. Got the old laser out. Yep, sure enough, 200 millimetres. It was trying to uphill. And this is after I rerouted all my drain laying to suit the step tank, because at the start it was going where the offset was going to be, but the step tank had to go close to my old septic tank. And I wasn't allowed a trafficable lid. Surprise, surprise, there's about 70 trafficable lids in Rotorua now. They cost an extra 5K. So anyway, they actually offered me a job with Infocor, and I was like, no, I know everyone out here and everyone's against this. I don't really want my house burnt down. So to be fair, I declined them, but I said, if you guys need a hand, I'll jump in, give a bit of word of wisdom. So I went around quite a few sites, used my laser, helped everyone out, trying to do the good Samaritan thing. Got to know the guys, nice guys. And then basically, I started getting employed by Infocor to help out where things weren't going right. And I picked just one out of many invoices I had to send, and I got one here where I got asked to put a fence in where they removed some stuff, and the owner wanted a new fence put in and a section tidied up, which was cool. You know, he pushed for a bit more and got a bit more that we all helped fund. And then as I was putting it in, I was kind of like, it's not going to work. It can't go in yet. And they're like, no, it's got to go in. We've got time schedules. Okay, are you sure? I'm telling you it's not going to work. I put the fence in, and then I got another invoice here to rip the fence out and put the fence back in again for them when it was done properly. Who's paying for that? Oh, you can pay me now, but I'll put some more back into the kitty because, yeah. So all of a sudden I started thinking, shit, you know, what's going to happen moving forward? Started thinking, what's this bill going to be? But sure enough, once again, Stavros, he's my mate. He comes out to Rotorua and goes, we've got this new letter here, and here, we had a big public meeting, and actually, unfortunately, Tanya, you were apologies that time. You were supposed to be at this meeting. But this was on Saturday the 1st of December 2018. And during that meeting, just to skip to a brief point, Stavros turned around and goes, don't worry, Cody. The 2007-18 annual plan is still on target. Certainly it is our goal and working hard to stay within the cost envelope of 14 to 15. We're aware that some people have heard that the ratepayer net capital cost funding is going to be 24 to 25k. This is ludicrous, right? But this is incorrect and unfounded. So here I am going, shit, when I signed up, I couldn't afford that. The bank wouldn't let me have that. I'm going to sink my family. But don't worry, Cody, here 2019, you're still good. So lucky Stavros isn't the bloody running the country. So basically, I know it's all about, you've probably heard it all. This is just my little part, my little story, but it's all about solutions. At the end of the day, outside the gate should have been on the 28,000 household units across Rotorua, and we should have been paying for whatever system we had to get to the gate. But what's done is done. So moving forward, I just can't see why it wasn't just gone, shit, we've blown out, we're sorry, you're only going to get charged what we said, chuck the 30% on or whatever, the contingency that they chucked in later on secretly, and gone, the rest should go on the household units of all of the district, because everyone's still chipping in, just like we're paying for the Rotorua upgrade, which is how many millions? The 5.5 original targeted rate was going to be to cover that, so we're double dipping out at Rotorua Road Eddy. So, like I said, it's about solutions. I believe that we should be doing what that is, pay for what's been told and put the rest on the targeted rates, and hopefully we stop seeing the community fall apart, because right now it is real sad out there. People are on breaking point, serious breaking point. I can't afford it. So I know I've only got 2 minutes and 51 seconds left, so I better go over to Katie because she's probably sitting there going, hurry up. I won't say the word. Moving forward to Katie, what she wanted me to touch on was so basically Rotorua's underwater, and in the long-term plan, there is nothing about Rotorua being underwater. Meanwhile, this new lakefront's amazing, and we've got locals out there picking up glass and beer bottles and broken stuff, and someone found a flywheel the other day, and the playground's missing, it keeps getting pinched. How do we solve that? Who knows? Probably end up getting disappeared, and my kids will never know where to play. But don't worry, Cody, your rates will go up and we'll cover it somewhere. Lake edges, the boat ramps, we've had how many discussions about the boat ramps? None of that's in the long-term plan, but yet the rates keep going up. So on another note, 23 Oxford Road. So we bought a property off a friend and mid-sewer scheme. And then we were like, Kate was like, oh, it'd be good, you know, maybe our family can retire in there if a hardship kicks in. So my dad's actually currently living in there. He's a pensioner. So we sorted it out and we said to him, look, you just pay the bare basics, we'll top it up, you have a good life. And then when we bought it, I said to the old guy, why'd you put the tank in the middle of the lawn where the kids play? And he goes, I didn't. I'm a justice of the peace, a full-time firefighter. I come home from work and I found it in the middle of the backyard. Here's where I signed. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I started a paper trail to and from the council about why it ended up there. And in the end, the council agreed and said, actually I was dealing with Peter Dine, but Peter Dine was blaming someone else. And I got onto someone else and they made it happen. And they said, Cody, if you want to move that septic tank to where it should be, how about you move it and it's okay. And I was like, oh, the code of compliance actually expired for weeks. I've been arguing for 2 years. And they said, don't worry, we're the council, we'll sort it out. And I was like, okay. So I got given a digger and one guy, and I spent 3 days digging up my own septic tank, shifted it, my wife was there with a wreck back. She dug the trench for the electrical box, Sparky came out, hooked it up, and then the council sent me an $800 bill to hook up the power. I used a fire truck to put the water in the thing because I wasn't allowed a water card either. So I moved and installed 23 Oxford Road, and now I'm proposed a $45,000 bill to put it in myself. how does that work? So I know it's no one's fault about mortgage rates. Our house is unlocked this year. We go from 2.79 to 7%. Who knows? We don't know. So that's major. That's another $200 a week on property. Then you go throw in $88,000 over 25 years. That's $3,000 a year, each property on top of that again. But I installed my own septic tank. Now I'm paying how much a year? And that's both ones. So, and we both work, you know? How's the pensioners gonna survive? I tell you what, people aren't gonna survive. It's really sad. Like I said, I'm in the volunteer fire brigade. I've seen a lot of stuff, and I believe I'm gonna see some more stuff if this doesn't get changed, because people are hurting really, really bad. So I hope I don't have to come back here one day and explain to you about why I had to pick someone else up off the ground or cut them down. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cody. We appreciate your submission, and also please thank Katie for us as well.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, that concludes today, day 5 of our hearings. We will adjourn the meeting until tomorrow. Till tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. To close off our meeting, Councillor Waru, kei a koe te karakia whakamatunga?
Hei koe tātou. E tau ki a tātou katoa te atu whai o tō tātou wariki, kai tima te atu te atua. Me te whiwhinga tahi taka ki te wai wata pua ake. Ake. Amen.
Amina. Amina. Thank you very much, everyone. The meeting is adjourned.